Donald Trump has caused havoc. He is literally spilling the beans and there are no safe secrets. He formed this department called Doge, which is Department of Government Efficiency. And so Doge has been looking into things and they are finding a lot of things in many places where people were hoping they would never find out. And it's quite startling. You know, he's looked into FEMA, they're looking into FEMA, there's millions that are misappropriated there. They're looking into the DEA, I think, or the DIE, and they're looking into the DOE, and everywhere you look, things are coming out. But the USAID, which used to be used as an agency to help many people, that's where most of this stuff is coming out. Well, good morning and welcome to Timeout this morning. My name is Jack Vint. I trust where you are that you're well, that you're safe, and that you have a hot cup of coffee with you. Now, I'm out here this morning because we've had horrendous rain for days, and I wanted to do Timeout like I always do, outdoor. And so I'm here with my camera, and thank you for joining me this morning. Now, the question I want to ask this morning is, has God raised up Donald Trump to be a trumpet, excuse the pun, and to fulfill a Bible prophecy that Jesus spoke about in Luke's gospel? And then the second thing is the question that everybody's asking at the moment is there any gold left in Fort Knox? So don't go away. Now at the end, I want to also of this podcast share with you what God said in His Word about the silver and the gold, because all this is about silver and gold that I'm speaking about this morning, and that's going to be interesting. So I'll just wait till the end this morning. Now, Donald Trump has caused havoc. He is literally spilling the beans, and there are no safe secrets. The JFK files that have been, kept under lock and key for years because of security reasons. He has published them. And it's one thing after the other he is bringing to the light. And that is why I'm asking. And of course, he's angering all the people that didn't want these secrets known. And it's refreshing because, for a leader, he said he's going to do all these things, and he is now doing them in even more, at an alarming rate where the media can't even keep up with him. And so this is why people love to hate Donald Trump, especially his enemies. But the people of America love him because he's doing what he said. Now, people have also said, Donald Trump's not a perfect person. He's got lots of flaws. True. And they say why God can't use him. Now, the last perfect person I know in history that God used was Jesus, his son. After that, there were no perfect people. And that's why I'm asking the question, is God using Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, as a trumpet to declare things? And I'm referring to a scripture in Luke 12, verse 3, where Jesus said this: whatever you have said in the dark, and imagine how many things have been said in the dark, will be heard in the light. And whatever you have whispered behind closed doors, and I can imagine what has been said behind closed doors, will be shouted from the rooftops or the housetops for all to hear. Now, that's an expression that Jesus used. Now, today's housetops or rooftops that things can be shouted from would probably be social media. And that's what's so interesting. Donald Trump is doing all these things publicly for the people to see. Before, everything was a secret and on a no need-to-know basis, almost making us feel that we are just too stupid to understand all these things. And that's why people love Donald Trump. And that's why his ratings are soaring. And he's exposing things. And now he formed this department called Doge, which is Department of Government Efficiency, which is a contradiction most of the time because, governments are not efficient normally, especially big governments. And in our country, we need Doge desperately because our government is totally inefficient. Whatever they manage doesn't work. And so he is taking on these things. And it's refreshing for me, because that's what a leader should be doing. He should be looking, how can he save his country financially? How can he make his country better financially for its people? And so Doge has been looking into things, and they are finding a lot of things in many places where people were hoping they would never find out. And it's quite startling. And, especially, he's looked into FEMA. They're looking into FEMA. There's millions that are misappropriated there. They're looking into the DA, I think, or the DIE, and they're looking into the DOE. And everywhere you look, things are coming out. But the USAID, which used to be used as an agency to help many people, that's where most of this stuff is coming out. And now, let me just say, America is, everybody knows, I think $34 trillion in debt, which simply means that when they print more money, they make more debt because there's interest attached to that. That's how it works. And so when the USAID decide to help people, especially outside of America, they are using loaned money. They have to loan the money. They're not taking it from profits. They're taking it from a loan, and that means interest. And so some of the monies that have been going outside of America aren't even to friends of America. Some of them are their enemies, and they are total irrelevant causes that they were giving millions and millions of dollars to. And now I just thought I'd mention two. One of the humorous ones, now I don't even know, I read this and I saw it, I don't even know if it's true, but it could be. That's how absurd this whole thing is, where they were donating millions or lots of dollars to the research of a super toilet. Yes, you heard right. A super toilet that can ID the user. Now, I don't know how that's going to cause world peace or you help humanity. But you would think that this is just the only one. There are many like that, to operas, to woke causes, to just writing songs. And it's just absurd, because if you're a citizen of America, you would think, now that's our money being spent and we have no say. And when the interest comes back, it rests on our shoulders as the citizens of America. And that's what's alarming people and making them even angry, that they had no say in this expenditure, and they didn't even know what was going on. And so the anger is growing. But one of the alarming things that I heard in one of the congressional Senate hearings was that they gave 90 or close to $90 million to the farmers in Afghanistan that were growing poppy. Yes, you heard right, poppy, where the opium comes from. And Afghanistan exports, they say, 90% of the world's heroin. So here is an agency giving 90 million to Afghanistan farmers, and it just carries on and on and on. So I asked the question, is God using Donald Trump as a trumpet to spill the beans, to declare the secrets, to shout them up from the rooftops? And he's not just doing it in America. He is also going to the Ukraine, where $250 million or billion dollars have gone into a war that cannot be won. And the crazy thing is, nobody's accountable. Nobody can say where that money is. And I think this is the key thing. A leader should hold people accountable, because the money ultimately is not theirs just to spend without accountability. And when a lot of these leaders and officials retire, they get big packages with mansions, but when it's gone, the debt of a country rests upon the shoulders of its citizens. And I think that's why there's a backlash against all this. Now, Haggai 2:8, God says an interesting thing. He says, the silver is mine and the gold is mine. Almost like reminding us, like he did in so many of the parables, that we are stewards and not owners. And the difference between a steward and an owner is simply that a steward manages something, it's not theirs, and so they are accountable. An owner just goes and spends it. So you can see if people are stewards or owners by the way they spend. Now, interesting, for centuries, there was the silver standard that countries adopted. For centuries, they would rate their money according to the silver they had. And I think up to the 1900s, the Chinese were the latest to give up the silver standard. But most people then moved to the gold standard. The two things that God says are the standards that determine wealth, that come from Him. The gold standard was always there, and now to say that if you've got X amount of gold and you print X amount of money, you can never be in debt technically as a country. But you know, the globalists weren't happy with that because they want debt, because debt produces interest and makes them wealthy. And so they go to countries in Africa, wherever, and they cause them to get into debt, which eventually is the interest is more than the debt. So it becomes a burden on people. And that's why I believe God hates debt. And Donald Trump saying he wants to reduce that debt, that's a good thing. But people are fighting it because they don't want to reduce the debt. They want to increase the debt, and they want to increase the burden, and they want to make more money. Now, let's get to Fort Knox. You know, they're saying, I don't know if it's true, that they're going to audit Fort Knox because there should be gold there to cover some of the printed money. And everybody knows there's probably never been enough gold than the money that is printed. And that's what brings inflation. That's what brings debt to a country. And so people are wondering, is there any gold left in Fort Knox? Now, when I grew up, we used to joke, and everybody would have that to say, this thing is like secure as Fort Knox. And even the actors in Mission Impossible would refer to Fort Knox and said, nobody can get into Fort Knox. So how would you get gold out of Fort Knox? Not from the outside, but maybe from the inside. So it's going to be an interesting to watch to see how much gold is still a standard there to cover the printed money that is in circulation. And there's going to be sparks flying because nobody wants to reveal those secrets. You see, people don't want to become accountable. And I believe God wants you and I and everyone to act as stewards and managers of our finances, of everything that He's given us, because He says, the silver is mine, Jack, and the gold is mine. And you are managers over that. Never forget. My name is Jack Vint. You've been watching Timeout. If you've enjoyed this podcast, why don't you subscribe? I would appreciate that. And if you've got a comment, it's great. I'm gonna read the comments. Otherwise, I'm gonna catch you next week. God bless.